So this section will be on the men's mental health groups. So could you tell us a little bit about the men's mental health groups initiative at PD Ports?
Yeah, sure. This is really quite inspiring initiative. It's the leader of it, and the one who's formed it is he's an operator in one of our warehousing facilities here on Teesside. He's taken it upon himself to form a men's mental health group. He's had a lot of support from not just me since I've joined, but a lot of the operational directors have been very supportive on this as well. And he's arranged for over time. We've had various initiatives, including mental health awareness training for staff, mental health first aider training for people, and then just in my most recent experience, since I've been engaged with all of this, in the autumn, are you familiar with an organisation called Andy's Man Club? So I think
yes, I've heard of it.
Yeah, I think it is nationwide now, and well, it's quite big. I don't know if it was actually formed in the Northeast. I think it may have been, but certainly it's very active in the Teesside area, where we are based. And he actually arranged Andy's Man Club Day in the autumn, where we had speakers from Andy's Man Club coming in open sessions where anybody could attend, and it wasn't open to just men. Lots of women attended. Myself, we were in the middle of listening sessions when it was taking place, but the facilitator who was working with me on the listening sessions, she and me joined one of these sessions to show our support for it, really. But it was really interesting, really thought-provoking conversations about mental health, about dealing with mental health issues by people who know, by people who have suffered their own mental ill health. And there was lots of promotional materials, leaflets, wristbands, all of those good things were shared. So several sessions held over the day. I think there were about 30 or 40 people attended them. So really good initiative. And then we're keen to do more this year. We'll do more with Andy's Man Club, but we want to build on that. And that's why my ears pricked up immediately when we learned about your mental health campaign. So we're keen to engage with this as well.
That's brilliant to hear. And I think it's really interesting that it was initiated by an operator. I think that's an amazing thing as well, because you're so used to sort of seeing these being rolled out by management.
Yeah.
But it really highlights inclusivity across all workforce levels, all organizational levels. So what need do you think that these groups were responding to?
Could you repeat that, Maya? Sorry.
What need do you think that these groups were responding to?
Yeah, good question. Well, I think it's exactly what we touched on earlier, and I think there is it's been described to me as an explosion of mental health issues in society in recent years, and I do think it takes a particular form in traditionally male-dominated industries, and there are particular. I'm sure there are concerns across the spectrum and particular concerns for women. But I think the particular issues we touched on earlier for men in male-dominated industries and those stereotypes that they should be stronger than that, and if they've got problems, that they're just weak. All these stereotypes. I think those things are particularly powerful. When I spoke to this guy, our operator who's launched this, it wasn't around the Andy's Man Club Day. It was around a listening session that he attended, and it was actually after the session, and we got chatting about the whole topic. And he said something, and I think it's really relevant given the subject of our conversation. He said he's got teenage daughters, and he said he was in conversation with them, and they said, "Oh, I could never work at Teesport. I could never work in the ports." And he's a thoughtful guy, and he thought, well, we're not. What are we doing wrong? That means young women don't want to work in an industry like this. and he basically said, surely a workplace should be suitable for anybody who wants to. So he's.
Oh, Alan, you've muted there.
Sorry about that. Yes, I was just saying he's a really thoughtful guy, and it's interesting. He passed on the insight that he'd got thanks to his daughter, who'd made that comment, and really got him thinking about why was that the case? What impressions our industry given off that make people think, oh, it's not one for me, So,
it's definitely, I think it's definitely really interesting that sort of perspective comes up as well, particularly again in male-dominated industries. There is the question of why. That should always be a question that's being asked. Why is it that women don't feel as inclined to join industries such as these? But I think it's a brilliant thing that these conversations are being had, as demonstrated. So how do you think that these groups were introduced in a way that felt credible and acceptable to the workforce, particularly facing these sort of stereotypes of men needing to be capable, resilient, without being able to discuss mental health as much as they should be?
I think a lot of it is about, I'd call it bravery to be the guy who stood up and said he wanted to do it. I think it does show that you've got to make the space for the employees to stand up and do these things and recognise the benefits. At the same time, I do sense a shift. I mean, certainly, I'm probably showing my age a bit now, but when I started in industry, the dominant attitudes were different. I think there are still, and I've picked it up in conversations over recent months, there are still pockets where some of the, I almost hate to make these comments, but where people say, "Oh, mental health is the new bad back," and all these cynical comments about these issues. There's still pockets where you hear things like that, but I think now the more dominant theme is that people are opening up to the need for, diversity, inclusion, recognizing that talking about your problems isn't just a nice thing to do. It's part of resolving them. Is the actual conversations and so on. So I think that all these things are driving it, but at the same time, I think you need your management teams to be able to embrace it. And I'm really encouraged, on DEI. I think here at PD Port, we've genuinely got a management team where they see the good in this, and they see the morally it's what we should be doing, but they also see the long-term business benefits as well of having an engaged workforce.
Yeah, I certainly I couldn't agree more, because again, I think a key part of it is that bravery that you had said. I think particularly when you're facing sort of stereotypes and expectations in these sort of industries, it's such an essential part of doing that. I think it's brilliant. I do think that PD Ports demonstrates inclusivity and diversity really, really well as we have these discussions. So what sort of role do you think peer leadership or sharing these experience played in making these groups successful?
Peer leadership, did you say? Yeah. I think it's possibly as important as anything, really. I think one person setting an example can break down so many psychological barriers and stereotypes amongst their peers. Because there will be a lot of people who will maybe add these kind of things on the mind, and it's probably like a breath of fresh air that someone finally speaks up. So I think it's a very powerful thing, and setting the example with positive behaviour, such as our guy did on mental health, it expands what's possible for people. I think that's fair play him or her, for doing this, but it also makes people think, oh, well, I have an area I'd like to contribute on, and they feel like it's more acceptable and normal to raise their hand too, on issues. So yeah, just as bad behaviours can, we can set bad examples to each other. We can set good examples to each other and get them rubbing off. Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Normalizing these sort of conversations is such an important thing. So one of my questions would have been, what sort of lessons from this initiative can other ports apply, even if they don't have the same sort of resources or initiatives even rolled out?
Yeah. The key lessons. I think the key thing is I think just a bit like training, finding time for training, especially this industry and many other industries suffer, is an example that most can relate to. And often it's a battle to get the time for training. Well, in this case, we needed time. We needed to make time for this campaign day, say. But throughout the year, you need to make time to have these conversations, to clear the space for the campaign days and so on. And sometimes it's a challenge to get buy-in from managers that the time's going to be well spent and worthwhile. So I think the key lesson here is that, if you do invest in the time required and free up your employees to attend these sessions, and use their initiative, the benefits in terms of engagement and commitment completely outweigh the cost in terms of time. So sometimes it's a knee-jerk response from managers for the busy people, and obviously have the bottom line to think about every day. I understand, but sometimes the knee-jerk response is no, we haven't time for stuff like that. But I'd say the lesson for us is it's time really well spent.
Thank you for your time. That is that section complete, and brilliant section it was. I will stop the recording now.